Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to another episode of the Ummah Times. And today the topic is Islamic revival. And in our virtual studio, we have a special guest, Brother Abu Bakr from the IMS, which is an emerging Islamic revival movement coming out of Pakistan, being led by its leader and poster child, which many in the activist arena may know by the name of Sahil Adeem. And Brother Abu Bakr will tell us more about the goals and mission of IMS in our discussion today. Assalamu alaikum, Abu Bakr. How are you doing?
Walaikum salam, alhamdulillah. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Uh, Brother Abu Bakr is not only an active member of IMS, but in his own right is an Islamic speaker and community volunteer. He conducts various halakas to inspire and help Muslims redefine their Muslim identity, keep their Muslim identity at the forefront of their lives, and to excel in their endeavors by repurposing the purpose of life. He's also been involved and active in various Islam outreach organizations here in the Toronto area. So I'd like to welcome you in our virtual studio, Brother Abu Bakr, and we're gonna get right into the discussion, and we're gonna we like to kind of we want to talk about around this first question we'll be asking you is, what exactly is the IMS, and what are its aims and objectives? If you kind of can shed on that.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. So basically, IMS stands for Islamic Messaging System. If anybody wants to check it out, they can just go onto Google and type in Islamic Messaging System, and it should be the first website that pops up. So, what is IMS? IMS is basically a platform, a venue, an organization that operates digitally online, which aims to bring Muslims of the world together. It's not specific to Pakistan, India, or Bangladesh. It's worldwide. Currently, as far as I know, we have more than 600,000 members online, and they're not just from those three countries that I mentioned. They're globally international, whether they be Arab, whether they be Pakistani, or from any other ethnicity. They're all present in IMS. What IMS aims to do is basically work on four specific capitals for each and every Muslim that is in IMS, or the people that surround the members of IMS, or the surround the circles of IMS in general. The four of those are intellectual. The intellectual capital comes first, then we have political capital, moral capital, and then the financial capital. For intellectual capital, what happens basically is we try to engage people in to become teachers instead of learners, to become people who write books instead of the ones who read the books, become community leaders, community thinkers, promote evidence-based discussions. So whenever they put forth an argument in favor of Islam or any other perspective of theirs, it should be backed by facts, not just by feeling and their own personal opinions, and something that can be taken down easily from your opposing side. Other than that, the intellectual capital is supposed to focus on the deeper study of the Quran and the Sirah. The Quranic, and we need to understand the Quran better in order to aim our objectives and in order to increase the general IQ of the Muslim population in general. And then the intellectual capital is further going to help the people make new discoveries, apply their knowledge and have a meaningful impact in general. Because currently, if you if you notice, the general IQ of the Muslim population globally is pretty low. You won't really see many intellectuals or world famous, meaningful thinkers coming out from whether it be the Muslim diaspora or people living in Muslim countries currently. The second capital that people usually that IMS is going to be focusing on is the moral capital. That is something people are usually more familiar with, because this is something that we hear in every Jummah khutbah, every Friday all year long, and this is what parents usually mostly focus on as well. Is the moral capital basically involves to become a person that is respected universally, to follow the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, to emulate his character, be good in your speech, be good in your actions, do good deeds, and all that kind of stuff, which we as a ummah are already very familiar with. It's the other capitals that you don't really get to hear about, mostly from the member of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in masjids during the Friday khutbahs and anything else. After that, we usually come up to what's the financial capital. So the idea behind the financial capital is to make people not be job seekers but be job providers. To people not to rely on somebody else to provide for their household or for their Islamic mission if they have one. To strengthen the community's financial independence, to promote ethical, halal, economic networks, and to provide them with business-driven skills, so that instead of being relying on somebody else, they are the ones that can be relied upon. And after that, it's the political capital, which, in my personal opinion, is the one that we really need to work on these days, considering what happened, considering October 7th, considering Sudan as well. So, what the political capital aims to do is we need to build people, we need to educate people in becoming not followers but leaders, which is a given, which is something that everybody can understand and agree with. To advocate for justice, to prevent oppression, is as commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To influence global narratives. You might have seen in the past year or two, people like Sami Hamdi have become very viral on the internet. The reason being that those were one of the people who were very articulate and very outspoken in the cause of Palestine. They were helping change narrative. He was touring the U.S., touring other Australia and other countries as well, in order to shape the narrative in favor of the Palestinians, which helped a great deal of Muslims in order to form their own opinions as well. That's one of the things that we aim to do as well, so that people can actually know what political stance they should take in specific situations, not by following other people, but by making their own opinions, by their own judgment, and by their own intellect. Then also, one of the main key points in the political capital is to connect and unite the Muslims globally, not just people from a specific country, people from a specific ethnicity, or people who speak a specific language. It should be if it should be each and every Muslim in the world that should be connected in one way or another. Because if we describe ourselves as an ummah, which we usually do, we don't act like one. I am not connected to any Muslims in India. I'm not familiar what the condition there is in politically or financially. All I can hear about it is on the news, and even that we all know is pretty much controlled and biased. So we need to build a collective and purposeful impact, and that can't be done alone. That need requires number. That requires a sizable population to do. These are the four things that IMS is currently working on and has its as its main four objectives that we need people to participate in.
Yeah, no, that was Jazakallah khair for the explanation. That was very comprehensive. So if I could just delve into a little bit more about the financial capital, I mean, watching Sahil Adeem's talks on YouTube, a lot of times, he emphasizes on the fact that Muslims, especially living in the Western world, needs to emphasize increasing their financial capital a little bit more, slash also the participation in the political systems. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because I was kind of like, thinking about it, what are really the halal ways for Muslims to excel nowadays, right? And at the same time, when it comes to participating in the political aspect or the political elements within the Western political landscape, there are a lot of areas which are antithetical to Islam. How can Muslim participate and excel in these realms at the same time complying with the Sharia governing principles? If you could elaborate a little bit more on that, please.
We'll deal with these in two separate
Sure.
sections. We'll do the financial first and then the political after. In terms of the financial, let's say you and I either one of us plans to start a business today. What kind of unethical or anti-Islamic situation do you think you would have to face?
It would be the capital, raising the capital, the actual source of the funds.
Oh, the source of the funds. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's something not something that you would have a problem with in the West. I believe that's something that you would have a problem doing even if you were in Pakistan, right? If you don't have the capital, dude, you have to go get it from somewhere. And since Pakistan just claims to be an Islamic country, even if you go to the bank there, you still gonna have to pay interest on it, right?
Right.
What other? There's another aspect to it. What you can do is, for example, that we refer to the Jewish businesses and Zionist companies as an example whenever we're talking about financial capital. The fact of the matter is, despite you having investors or not, you could always get investors, right? You don't need to go on a solo mission for this. The fact of the matter is, our products don't really work. For
Mhm.
example, every other person who tends to, whether it be from the IT profession or someplace else, he tends to make a new Islamic product. For example, a new Azan app, a new Muslim Pro, a new Islam 360. They just keep making those same things that I have 1,000 other copies as well. When was the last time you heard somebody, a Muslim company or a Muslim person, making a product as basic as a bar of soap? Even the soap that you use in your household is from a Zionist company. Even the shampoo you use in your household is from a Zionist company. Now the problem is, if you do seem to find a substitute for something like that, whether it be a household item or something else that you use, the quality isn't there. You understand what I'm saying? So
Right.
there are people who are already trying to get into business. They have the funds. You and I both know in Ramadan we're going to find out very clearly that people don't lack money. They
Right.
have enough of it. Especially the amount of masjids popping off left, right, and center. The donations people tend to give. We already know that they have money. Is that the standard at which they're doing businesses isn't there? For
Right.
example, you and I both already know, whenever we're dealing with somebody, whether he be from Pakistan or India, and specifically a Muslim and he speaks our language, we already know that whatever he's going to do, there's going to be another way around it to do it, which we would call a way not that's not too ethical. But it's the same thing when you go to other companies. Whenever you're dealing with them, you already know that you're gonna get what they're saying you're gonna get.
Hmm.
There's no doubt in that. So that capital isn't really the problem. It's that the standard of the Muslim operating in business is not there. The
Hmm.
ethics of the Muslim operating in business is not there. You can operate a business without being unethical. You don't really have to go and start funding the IDF to actually become successful in business. We all know that. There are Islamic and ethical ways to do business, whether it be for regular products or something else. But that's the main contention that's here. The second point, you were talking about to become politically active. You might be thinking, okay, if I want to somehow influence the president of the United States, that means that I need to somehow have some dirty pictures or videos of him like Epstein's Island, and to order to influence him, right? There's one thing that we have as a Muslim community that the other, maybe the Zionists, don't have, is our numbers. We are 2 billion. There's 2 billion of us in the world, and there's a couple of hundred, maybe not even a billion of them in the whole world. Numbers matter. If you pay attention to this fact, you might realize that in situations for politicians and even the Prophet ﷺ, in situations where they weren't as strong as we would like to think these days they are, it is their numbers that made an impact. I'll give you an example from Pakistan, since people are very familiar with it. You might know that Imran Khan has been leading his political movement for 20 plus years now. It's been the same narrative. Nothing's changed. He's still the same person. But you might have realized that in the initial years, his movement did not pick up until I think 2018 or something. It's when he had a sizable amount of people following him is when he became a threat for other political parties.
Right.
The only reason for that was because he had numbers following him. If you remember, a couple of years ago, the Turkish military tried to do a coup against Erdogan. The only reason it stopped was because he had a sizable amount of people following him. They didn't need to go and blackmail anybody. They didn't need to do anything else. They demonstrated that we are followers of this person. And numbers is power in the political game and in the financial game as well. The exactly same thing happened in South Korea. They were trying to do a coup. People came out and stopped it. So we having the numbers, we don't need to go and start blackmailing them and doing unethical things. We need to show them that we have the power to either give you your seat as an MP or whatever position you're trying to come over to, or we can vote against you and make you punish you for it. That's the same narrative. But if you remember, Brother Sami Hamdi was promoting in America as well. Another example of that we saw very recently is in the US, actually. I personally don't think that it's a coincidence that all the Muslim majority states in the US happen to be the states that were the swing states as well. It is those states where the Muslim majority people were living that were actually a threat for the Democratic Party. It was the numbers again that were helping us do what we were doing. The people there that voted against Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they didn't need to do anything unethical. They did what they had the power to do. They voted against them and punished them for being complicit in a genocide. So that's the main advantage that we have. But in order to accomplish the use of those numbers in a specific way, in a way that benefits the Muslims, we need to increase what I was mentioning as the political capital, and that's what we're trying to work towards.
Right. No, I think I agree with you on certain points there. If I were to just to push a little bit on the political aspect, when how the Muslim can be active within the Western Hemisphere when it comes to politics, and you are obviously mentioning the Zionist way of doing things. Wouldn't you say that the Zionist way of doing things is aligned with Democrats and Republicans alike? Whereas the Muslim way of doing things, the Muslim political activism is completely in contrast to how they do things, right? Their goals are the same, their objectives are the same, right? The corporations play a huge role nowadays, as you know that, when it comes to buying out these lobbies, and also, having their say in the Senate. How can Muslims really compete with that level of corruption while still remaining true to their to Sharia?
You see, the Zionist lobby does things the way that we all are aware of them doing them, right? We don't necessarily have to do those things. Remember, we are Muslim, and our ethics are much higher than that of the Zionist, and they always come first. We are not going to deviate from the way of the Prophet ﷺ or the commandments that Allah has given us, right? Who says that we have to do things exactly the way they do them? If a specific technique works out for them, they're not our teachers. We're not supposed to follow them, right? That's why I brought in the fact of the us having the numbers. You imagine this. You start a business today, you come into IMS as a member, and you see that this marketplace, this app, this community has 600,000 people already present. Would you not want to be a part of it? And that those are 600,000 direct immediate customers that you have access to. Now imagine yourself in the shoes of a politician. If you know that there is this Islamic app called IMS with people that have a specific vision for as Muslims, would you not want to get access to those 600,000 people? And would when they put their demands in front of you, would you not comply with them? If
Of
you know
course.
that there is 600,000 people here that are aligned on a specific topic, are aligned on a specific mission, and then when you want to get your votes and you want to come to power, you have to do what they're asking for. The same thing you can actually, you know what, I don't know how long you were here in this part of the province, but you might have remembered there was just the elections recently that happened for the MPs, right? In our own constituencies, in our own areas, I know of politicians that came in and promised to speak up on Palestine and promised to do what they were supposed, what people were asking them to, only because they wanted their votes, right? So there was the pressure available, but the disadvantage that they had was that not enough people had come together and politically active to put pressure on them. As soon as they got their seats, they turned away from it, from their promise. So you don't really have to, like I said, go towards building up an Epstein's Island to blackmail people, bribe people in the Senate to get your bills passed. Your numbers are your strength. If you realize the Prophet ﷺ did the same thing, people are very fond of comparing our situation, Muslim situation these days, with the time of Makkah. Oh, we're weak, we're this, we're that, we can't do anything. But what they don't realize is, even during that time, the Prophet ﷺ was gathering people around him with the same propaganda, with the same narrative, who were using that information that they had to spread it even further to gather more people. So
But I
there is
mean,
always.
if you were to, if we were, I mean, even if you were to look at the model in UK where Muslims have been active, they've been living there for almost four generations now, right?
Yeah,
Since the late
yeah.
60s. And, they have been, participating in the politics for more than 2 decades, much earlier than the Americans, Muslims. And they definitely have a stronghold. They even have a self-proclaimed Muslim mayor of their main city, London, right? So the representation, is definitely there when it comes to UK, right? But at the same time, I mean, even if you were to look at the Palestinian cause, I mean, you can see across the Muslim world, not just the Muslim world, actually across the globe, everybody's literally on the street protesting against their own governments, let it be Australia, States, Canada, UK, even in Norwegian countries as well, right? But if these politicians were to really pay attention to the masses, at least somebody would have stepped in, right? So that's where I'm coming from. Where yes, the numbers do matter, but they only matter if it's serving the elites or the politicians' agenda, right? Whereas when you're talking about IMS, we could have from 600,000, I hope inshallah it's 6 million one day, right? It could be 1 billion of Muslims as an example. But what they calling for, these 1 billion, these 600,000, these 6 million Muslims, is for the revival of Islam, which nobody wants. All the powers to be, they definitely don't want that. However, if these same Muslims, group of people, were asking for more corporations coming over to their lands, extracting the resources, or doing things the capitalistic way of how they do things, then they would definitely have some sort of a weight. But what they're asking for, it could be 1 billion or it could be one, which is completely different from the other's agenda. How would you address that?
So what is the question exactly?
Like your way of, for example, the way how you phrased it, that if we have a number of people, then we can have a say in the global landscape when it comes to politics, right? So we have 600,000 people in IMS. Any politician would want to pay attention to it, but they just want to pay attention to just to get the votes. But they're not going to pay attention to it to actually revive Islam, because they themselves don't believe in it, right? Because they're just using you as a stepping stool to achieve their end goal, which is to become an MP or become a president, what have you, in different situations. But they're not going to go and actually do something for the implementation of Islam, because the whole system that we're trying to appease or trying to lobby is built against Islam. So you have to uproot the system from the very foundations of it to revolutionize, if I may use that word, for it to actually work in your favor. But having, maybe even 40% of the MPs in your favor, it has never been done before.
The situation that I was referring to is the situation that we can use currently. Obviously, I agree with you 100% that the system itself needs to be uprooted entirely and replaced with the system that we want as a Muslim revivalist. But what you need to realize is, even let's say you might have heard people come online and say that we need the Khilafah tomorrow.
Mhm.
Like overnight, we need the Khilafah. But we have to realize, if you implement the Khilafah by force tomorrow, it's barely going to last 100 years, maybe 200, because people aren't going to accept it. You and I know very well the condition our people are, and there is no way they're
Right.
going to accept a Khilafah. You remember the videos that came from Afghanistan when the Taliban took over. People were running, clinging on to the tires of the planes to get out of there, right? It's
Right.
because they all had a fear, okay, we're going to get our hands chopped off and whatever, whatnot. The only way to do is because the intellectual capital and the political capital and the financial and the moral. Because if you implement it by force today, even if it is good for the people, they're not going to accept it. So you have to make them ask for it. You have to teach them the
Mhm.
benefits for it. You have to show them that this is the better side. They come towards the light, essentially. That
Agreed.
this is how this system works. We have no working example of what a Muslim nation or what a Muslim state under Sharia is going to look like right now. If we can't provide them with an example, we need to at least teach them about it and teach ourselves, so that in order to, we can show them the long-term vision for it.
Mm.
If I say Khilafah right now, the first thing that comes to a regular person's mind, whether he be in Pakistan or somewhere else, is that my hands are going to get chopped off.
Right.
You've heard this time and again, or you're going to get lashed 40 times, or this is going to happen, that is going to happen. So that is the image in their mind for the Khilafah or a political system dependent on Islam, is not the one that it should be in reality. So that's why when we're talking about IMS and the 600,000 people, or how many ever people we have in there, this is the intellectual capital that we're increasing based on the Quran and the Sunnah, is to know what you're pitching to the other person,
Mm.
is to know what you're going to present to them in an argument. And that's the reason you should be backed up by facts about the Islamic system and the defects of the current system that is in place.
Right.
The situation I gave to you was for current day, where we have no Islamic system. I can give the
Mhm.
example of Dubai, Saudi Arabia, or anywhere else right now, right? But this situation that you presented, I 100% agree with it. But that's going to take time. It's not that easy to do. It might take one generation, might take two, but it can't happen overnight, is what I'm saying.
No, understood. No, no, I agree with that as well. I mean, I think it's a nice way to, sorry, Shani, you probably can jump in anytime as well. Segue into the next question where, it, it, I get exactly what you're saying, right? So is there anywhere on IMS, either website, to be honest with you, I haven't really explored the website in depth, but a lot of time, the same very question was also posed to Sahil Adeem as well, where, um, it's very hard for a normal person like me to go and find the roadmap of what you're talking about here, right? Okay. This is what we need to work on. These are the four capital or the four areas which we need to work on, gather momentum, build this movement. And then it's going to basically lead to step 2, 3, and 4. And ultimately, this is our end goal. Is there a roadmap that we can find or we can look at? I think it's also necessary to have that as a document, so other people can look at it, critique it, so that way we can always improving upon it. And it's not a very static document. It has to be dynamic and very lively, so which has a feedback loops built into it.
Yeah, I would agree. If there was a document, would have been very easy for a lot of people, because I also see that Sahil gets posed this question a lot on what is the next step, what are we supposed to do, how do we proceed. But if you pay attention to the four capitals and the strategy that IMS is working on, I tend to disagree that there isn't documentation on this, because everything that IMS or Sahil claims to do is from as he claims, is from the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sirah. Now, if you pay attention to the capitals that we just talked about, that those are something that the Prophet ﷺ was directly installing, directly cultivating, directly training the Sahabas upon. Not that each and every Sahaba was supposed to master all four of them, but he trained each and every one of them according to their own strengths, right? And if you take a look at the aspect of where I'm saying that we need to gather people, the Prophet ﷺ did the same thing as well. So the way to Khilafah, according to the Sirah, was identified as these four capitals to be achieved in order to come into a position where you are actually able to challenge the power that you are opposing. If you do not cultivate any of these, because we're not going to wait on any miracles, right? The Prophet ﷺ is not amongst us anymore. If he was here, then no problem, no worries. We would just follow whatever he's doing, right? But the reason that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the Prophet ﷺ is the best example for us, he purposefully made events occur in the life of the Prophet, the Sahaba, his wives, his family, and the people around them, so that not even a regular layman, a common man, would be able to say that I cannot relate to the Prophet in any way or shape or form. There, you will always find something that has happened in the life of the Prophet ﷺ that
Right.
even the lowest common denominator can relate with. So that's where we're getting all our information, all our guidance, all our roadmap from, is the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
No, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think it just my recommendation would be if we can extract whatever you have just said, right? And, kind of put this on some sort of a white paper, so people can see, okay, you're talking about four capitals, but how can I link it back to the Quran and Sunnah and the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right?
I
So I
agree.
think,
there should be something of that
yeah,
sort.
I think especially
And I'll
nowadays,
try to
everybody
propagate this
wants
idea in
to,
the IMS groups and try to propagate it to make somebody come up with a formal document that we can post somewhere and
exactly.
open it up to critique as well, because that's a very good that's a very good thing to have a discussion on.
Absolutely. Because I think a lot of people nowadays, they ask for the sources and the proofs, right? And that's a really good document to have. So that way people can engage with the document, right? And, when you engage with the document versus, going across 50 different videos, right? You're trying to just, come up with your own roadmap, and each and everyone would have their own roadmap, because we it's natural for human beings to pick only on certain aspect of the conversation. And then you basically, just map a roadmap in your head, based on whatever you understood from the conversation. Versus if you have a standalone document, which is there for everybody to look at, critique, and then everybody, including IMS and Sahil Adeem and everybody in the movement, is working based on their very document. So whenever they deviate, right, whenever they want to add an extra capital or remove a capital, that can happen, right? So then they can refer back to the original. Okay, this is how the movement has progressed. They analyzed it at X number of years. This is not working. We need to re-strategize. So I think it would be, what I'm trying to say end of the day is that it would be really beneficial. That this is something I think, especially for people who are a little bit more, in tune with various other movements as well. They're accustomed to critiquing the movements, looking at how they function, and if they want to partake in that movement, they want some sort of a definitive document to look at to see actually if this is something they want to be part of or not.
Now that you say it, I was just thinking the amount of the number of times that people have asked for something like this, and every time we tell them that this is from the Sira, right, and they get confused sometimes as to has this happened, how did this happen. So I was just having a realization how sad is it that we don't even really know the life of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We're not familiar with him at all, right? It's not in our training to look at his life in a political way, in a psychological way, and all those kinds of ways. It's always been, oh, look at the akhlaq, look at the akhlaq, look at the akhlaq. He never said anything to anybody. It's never said it. So I was just having a moment there about kind of a sad moment, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
How detached we are from our own prophet. Yeah, but I agree with you. If there was a paper, it would be easier for a regular person who's not very adept to the Sira or how these systems usually work to understand what we're trying to do. And I'll definitely push this idea to somebody in the IMS administration.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Brother Ali and now you agree with as well, is that, like in terms of, you mentioned website, so I didn't know there was an IMS website in existence. Like, is there one? I think you mentioned one, right? There was one in
Yeah, so you
existence.
just go into Google, type in Islamic messaging system. It takes you direct to the website, because
Okay, so again, like,
that is one of the primary ways how you get into the organization. Essentially, you fill out a
I see.
form
All
and then
right.
they add you to the group that they have to.
Yeah, so like and at that on that website you have like do you have the goals and mission all outlined
Yes,
of the
it's all outlined,
organization?
and the thing is that the main goal for that website is temporary, basically. I mean, you can go there to register still and get information on it, but the main goal that they were trying to work towards was an app that's easier, that's everybody can log on to centrally. Right now, we're working off of WhatsApp groups, right? So
Yeah.
as of yesterday or the day before, we had an announcement in which we were told that in the next month or two they're going to be doing the primary testing of the app within a specific core study group, and then they should be rolling it out as soon as possible. And that way, we don't really have to run around on different websites or a different group here or there to connect with each other. Everything is going to be centralized completely.
Yeah. I want to get some comments from you on how IMS looks at other Islamic revivalist organizations because I would say Pakistan has been one of the hotbeds of other Islamic revivalist organizations that have emerged in the past. Um, the one that was led by the late Dr. Israr Ahmed,
Yeah.
Tanzim Islami, and then you have others ones as well. And I haven't really seen, at least on the online sphere, where you brothers, the IMS team is looking at collaborating with other Islamic revivalist organizations. Like I've seen some collaboration with Sahil with with pro Khilafah brothers like Abdullah and Delusi doing
Yeah.
collaborations with them. But then I see Abdullah and Delusi being hosted by other Islamic revivalist organizations. I don't even talk to IMS on the online sphere.
Yeah.
Um, so like what is there any kind of movement on collaborating with other organizations who want this who have the same end goal? Like what's going on in that arena, if you can
Yeah.
comment on that?
So basically, what's happening is there are people in the group, a lot of them in IMS, that are a part of IMS and part of the other groups that you mentioned as well. For example,
Okay.
I'll give you an example of one of the groups organizations called the Revivalist, led by Kesar Ahmed Raja. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not. So basically, what happens is if I'm part of IMS, I can also be part of the Revivalist, and then we work together on specific projects as well. And a lot of collaboration happens there. It's not like a open secret or something that's being hidden from the people. Anybody can join, and anybody can join some other organization as well. And collabs do happen. It's just that the online space is mainly dominated by the main speakers, right? So, for example, if you go on to the Islamic Messaging System YouTube channel, there's a YouTube channel as well. There's people coming in from different organizations, different arenas, who are all teaching in the IMS groups online and deliver lectures and workshops that are then later get uploaded to the YouTube section as well. For example, if somebody from the Ummah Times, let's take a random example, wanted to come and teach Arabic to the people of IMS, there is no restriction, no pre-qualification or any that thing of something like that that's going to stop you or bar you from coming into IMS and teaching people, because we need teachers as many as we can get, right? So, for example, today, if you and I want to collaborate on, let's say we have the same ideology, right? We want to see the revival of Islam. If you and I work together today to, let's say, go into a masjid and do a specific talk on the aspect of revival of Islam, there's nobody that's going to stop us from saying, okay, do not collaborate with these guys for X, Y, and Z reasons, right? So it's all a big group of people working together behind the scenes mainly, and online as well. The thing is, you probably realize that these topics specifically, especially from people that are not very big on the online space, don't really get a lot of traction. The reason you see more of Sahil or Abdullah Andalusi or Kasser Ahmed Raja or other people is because of the factor of virality, right? But these things are already happening online and they do exist.
And where we met at a local halakha you were doing for mainly youth. And so like we're happy as the Ummah Times to kind of promote any events you're doing in the Toronto area, because I think as the Muslims get educated in Pakistan about Islam as a holistic system, which is the only true system of justice,
Yeah.
especially given the events that we've been highlighted, the barbarity against the Ummah, that Islam is the only true, there is no international law that that can help save us, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just let us know. The Ummah Times is happy to kind of publicize those events and get more Muslims educated here. Now, I know you both of you touched upon this, but I just want to get a clear distinction because numbers is true. Numbers makes a difference, and the numbers obviously are in the Muslim majority lands,
Yeah.
right? Here we're a tiny minority, like 4 or 5% at best in Canada. An argument for bringing up the system, bringing the Islamic system here would only work if we were over 50%. We're not. So what I see is like as Muslims living in the non-Muslim majority countries is that we need to work on as you said, education, resources to help educate us and the Muslims in the
Exactly.
Muslim majority lands um, to have the system emerge there.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I think the Muslims in the West, I'm not sure like what is our role. Maybe eventually, going back um, to a credible Muslim majority country because that's where the fruits of our labor would best manifest themselves. So if you want to comment on that, if IMS has thought about
Sure.
that,
I
especially in
think you
regards
hit
to
the
its
nail on the
members who live, yeah, who live outside the Muslim majority
yeah.
lands. Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head with the point where you made is like we're not in the majority here. Plus, we need to educate our people because if you notice, if you walk out onto the street and meet a random Muslim, you're probably not gonna be you're not gonna find them to be the revivalist type. They're happy with their mortgages. They're happy with the situation that they're in here. They don't really care. They think that Islam is just a set of rituals, as do most majority people, right? I would argue that it's better to stay here and to perform better instead of going back to where there is already a Muslim majority area and then try to perform there. The reason for that is I forgot. I apologize. I never remember to ask what your background is. I don't know if you're from Pakistan, India, or somewhere else. But if you take the example of Pakistan, you know that the youth and the middle-aged people, they all look towards the West to get their ideologies from. For example, the reason you've heard people saying that, oh, secularism is very prominent in Pakistan, atheism is very prominent in Pakistan these days, Islamophobia, and then all these LGBT narrative is getting popular in Pakistan. That didn't originate from Pakistan. We already know that, right? So if they're already looking towards the West to get their new ideologies from, to get their new perspective on political situations from, to get the new direction to go on where to go into the world. So if you and I go back into the same area that we came from, we're just going to get diluted into the same to the excess number of population that's already there. If you and I can perform here and show that we're capable of what we're saying we're capable of, and we can actually gather some numbers and get the people onto the same perspective, then naturally this trickle down effect, this waterfall effect is going to start affecting people there. Things as simple as TV shows affect people so heavily in Pakistan that you would not believe. Any TV show that you name here that people don't even worry about is affecting people's way of talking, way of walking, way of dressing in Pakistan. This is a natural phenomena that occurs that whenever a dominant nation, even if they throw away their garbage, the less dominant ones, the ones that they're heavy over, are going to accept it as their deen, as their ideologies and everything. People are getting done with LGBT in America and Canada, but in Pakistan, it's just becoming a fashion right now, a trend right now, where people are accepting it wholeheartedly. So I would argue that it's better for me and you to perform over here, to actually do what we can here in order to affect them directly in Pakistan.
And uh, and I'm just kind of just to continue this conversation on this topic. Till when though? I understand where you're coming from, like because the Muslims in the West are, in terms of privileges, etc., they should not squander it.
Yeah.
And as Muslims, they should do the best of the ability of empowering themselves in terms of being an influence to the people in the Muslim majority country because they look to the West, right? But
Yeah.
I don't know if they would look towards the the Western Muslims. I don't know. It's hard to find for me to find that connection. Now, so from you, I like to get an idea. You said stay here is better, but till when though? Till when?
Okay. So one point I forgot to mention is for the previous question is that you might also realize that the children that are growing up here tend to have an higher IQ than children or people compared to Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. So it's natural that they're going to have better opportunities here, better performance here if they have a mindset for the deen, to work for the deen. That's something that I wanted to add to the previous question. Where you're saying till when, honestly speaking, this is a personal belief. I don't believe that Allah is going to ask us on the day of judgment that why weren't you successful in your mission? How come you did not achieve the end goal of your mission? If you were to think about it this way, you and I both, we don't know when Palestine is going to be free, but we're still working towards it, right? It might get freed in our lifetime, it might not get freed in our lifetime. Allah's going to make it happen when he wants to make it happen. But you or I are not going to be questioned for why did you not liberate Palestine. We're going to be questioned for our efforts. That's the reason I personally am. We're going to keep going as long as it takes, and we're going to try our best to make it happen as soon as possible. But I don't believe Allah is going to ask us to me on the day of judgment is why did you not accomplish it before you die. That's one thing. Second, what was the second part of your question?
No, no, no. Yeah, but my main question was till when? Because and just kind of elaborate on this because as you know, the freedoms we may think as Muslims who want to practice the Deen, we have the freedom, so we have the luxury to invest in ourselves. That's also being squeezed, as you may know. Rights are being taken away from anyone who wants to practice in a meaningful way their deen. So, for example, just next door to Brother Ali in Quebec, if a Muslim woman wants to practice her Islam, she can't, but she's barred from working for the government, right? That's one example. We know what's happening in Europe, etc. So I think my perspective is that uh, it can't be for a very long time because as a minority, which they know that they belong to a system that could be a potential threat to their worldview and to their order, they're going to squeeze down and make us more. And for any Muslims who want to continue to live there, they'll be forced to be secularized even more. So my argument is that eventually Muslims in the West who are especially activists will probably sooner or later will have to make that move to the Muslim majority lands, and their efforts will be actually there'll be better consequences for their efforts because it'll be more potential in those areas than here. But that's where I'm coming from. I don't want to make this into a debate, but
No, no, no.
that's yeah.
It's actually good to see a different point of view on it, but and it's better for people listening, for them to get an idea of what we're talking about. But then again, even if we go back to Muslim lands and then start our movements there, the problem is that the people that are in power and the people in general are still going to be mentally enslaved by the West, right? So that's the reason we're trying to say is to try to work here so that if we can become successful the way we're planning to here, we can automatically change the way of thinking of whether it be the politicians or whether it be the army leaders or the general public in en masse. Um, but I agree that you're saying that we don't have a lot of time. Well, actually, we're already late to begin with. But I realize that you're saying we don't have a time. If we can manage to gain traction, if we can manage to get the specific number of people that we need, it should not take more than a generation or two. I can tell you that much. And the funny part about this is people tend to believe that we need, like I said, 600,000 in IMS. We need all of them to be top notch, top tier in order to achieve this. We actually don't. Brother Sahil usually says in a number of his videos that he's actually done the calculation on how many people we need to achieve this goal, and it's not that much. It's just a couple of thousand people that are needed. It's specifically kids who are trained on this idea, trained on this ideology, who will grow up in the next 10 years, 5 years, 15 years, and act towards it. So it's not that far as long as we keep doing it. But obviously, the reason I said that I don't think Allah is going to question it on us because neither you nor I can see the future. We don't know how long it might take. But if everything goes according to plan, and in controlled environment, by the controlled environment, I mean we're taking parameters that we can assess as human beings. It should not take more than a generation or two. And that time is natural. There's no way to do it any faster than that. Even if you were to go to Pakistan and start doing it there, there's no way you can get it done in the next 3 years, 5 years, considering what situation the people over there are in right now.
Right. I think what you have done there is that, you have effectively reframe the mindset. Okay, fine, if you are happen to be in the West, or if you find yourself in the West, make the best use of it, right? To help revive the ummah back home, from wherever you happen to be. And I think, this is another, I would probably argue that uphill battle with the Muslims, living in the West. Because if you think about it, 99% of the Muslims, at least I know in my circle, are economic migrants, right? So they come here for better houses, better jobs, better education, whatever that means, the word education, right? Because even that's debatable too, right? And then they actually end up, finding quote unquote Islam, which is, very ritualistic in a way where a Pakistani would like to wear a thobe, even though that's completely irrelevant to him or her, right? And think, okay, I can walk around in a thobe and he feels good about himself. He can have a beer, he can have a thobe, he can put some attar on him, and can go in the mosque and do whatever he wants to do. Whereas, back home, that was not possible, because maybe it was not possible because he never found the Islam. And he came here, he felt separation, anxiety, within himself. And that's how he basically came back to Islam. So at the same time, we are also responsible for our progeny as well, right? As Brother Zishan mentioned, we're getting squeezed day by day. Look what's happening, down south in states, right? You have these ICE goons just literally kidnapping people, and we claim about different agencies back in Pakistan just kidnapping people, right? It's not any different, right? So don't you think for this kind of work that we need at least less uphill battle, meaning, we don't have to worry about reading labels if something is halal or not, and then worrying about the progeny and all this liberal, secular onslaught on us 24/7. And we always have to justify living here, versus all this effort, if you were to be back home, can be focused on the pure revival aspect. How would you address that?
You see, I don't know I don't know when was the last time you went to Pakistan, or if you spent a lot of time there in general. The challenges here and there are different. They're of the same nature. You could get death threats here, you could get death threats there as well from a sect that doesn't agree with you, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if you take the example of Sahil, he already has like 100 court cases pending against him, right?
Right.
So uphill battle is a given. If you're out here trying to do the work of the deen, you're trying to do Allah's job, there is no easy way out of it. You have to be ready to sacrifice your time, your money, your life, everything that you have for this mission, this cause. Nobody said this was going to be easy, right? Now, if you're going to try and find a place that makes it easier for you, then there might be a chance that you might be sacrificing something as well. Maybe the potency of your message, maybe the quality of your audience as well, right? So I don't think of it that way. The only thing I personally do is try to prepare myself as much as I can for the hardships that might come, whether it be here or doing it here or in Pakistan. I'll be frank with you, I don't believe I'm at that level yet where I have had any specific or serious hardships yet. But if, let's say, you and I went to Pakistan and started doing this thing, right? We would have had court cases. We would have had death threats. We would have had people tracking us, people threatening our families, people pulling guns on us. Everything that would either happen in the US or Canada to you, right? The difference is there might be a serious, more of a chance of you getting hurt or stopped over there compared to here. Like, even if we don't like it or agree with it completely, there is still a sense of law here, whether it be ethical or not, or moral or not. There's still a sense of, whether it be a false sense, a sense of security over here. Secondly, you see, you said that you have some friends that came here for a better life, economic opportunity. You and I can agree that there are some opportunities here that you can get that you won't be able to find in Pakistan, that might help you on your mission. You have access to better universities that you can go to get a better education, whether it be on the secular sciences or any other topic of your choice, to actually increase your IQ to become competent, right? Whereas in Pakistan, you might not get the same quality of education, as you said, wherever that means, right? Depends on what you're trying to do. In terms of economic aspect, People in Canada, everybody talks about the better economic opportunities available in the US as compared to Canada, right? But then the same applies from compared to Pakistan for Canada as well, right? There are more avenues of making money over here, which you can still do in a halal way. Even if you were to go back to Pakistan, I'm pretty sure you have to do a lot of harm to make a lot of money in haram in Pakistan, right? So I would still stick to stick to the point that there are situations where staying here is much better for you as compared to going back in Pakistan. Because I don't know if you, as you mentioned, that there are agencies in Pakistan that are kidnapping people and all those sorts of things. I know for a fact that you're not worried about being kidnapped in Ottawa. You said you were in Ottawa, right? Oh yeah, okay. You
Yeah,
got
yeah.
muted. Okay. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure you're not going to get kidnapped in Ottawa. If you were in Karachi or Lahore or Islamabad, I couldn't give you that guarantee, or that you're going to get shot when you go out into the bazaar. If you were as vocal as you might want to be about the specific situation of the revival of Islam, right?
Great,
Because
agreed.
if you remember, this main narrative in the Desi community doesn't come from the West, that there is no politics in Islam. There are scholars in Pakistan right now who are saying that the politics has nothing to do with Islam. There is
Mm,
no Islamic system in Islam. Just
mm,
pray, just go to the masjid and do all those ritualistic things, and you should inshallah get Jannah. If you just saw the video from that emerged from Pakistan right now, where all the ulama
right.
and the sheikhs were bowing their heads to and giving bayah to the army chief, right? Now, if you go to Pakistan and start talking about the revival of Islam, do you think they're going to let you get off the hook that easy?
Right. Of course not.
Exactly my point. So if you let's prepare for the uphill battle instead of trying to find an easy way out of it. Let's chase awesome deaths and stop chasing easier lives.
Great, great. Sean, any closing remarks?
No, that was a really good discussion, and it kind of I believe it's given everyone food for thought
Sure.
on how to move forward. Um, and just one last thing, Brother Abu Bakr, like I just wanted to just get your general idea, like what Muslims in the West can do to support the IMS vision. It would be, I guess, I guess you can share your website. They can go to the website, learn more about it, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, in order to work with the IMS, you don't really need to be a part of it. It's better if you do, so that you can get connected to more people in your area around you. Because it's not just what's the word, youngsters, teenagers, or students that are in IMS. It ranges from the age of 14 all the way up to 70 and 80 years old. It's students to lawyers to doctors to engineers and everybody. So it's good if you become a part of it, so you can get connected to the people who have the same mindset in your area. If you for some reason do not want to be a part of IMS, you can still get in touch with anybody who's a part. If you are, for example, a teacher, it's not just teaching Arabic that I mentioned as before. If you're a teacher for physics, chemistry, bio, math, anything, any useful skill that you have, we need a teacher who can teach it competently in IMS. There's no part where you have to where it's necessary for you to be a member. Other than that, if there's an organization, for example, like the Ummah Times, you can get in touch with anybody in the IMS administration. I can forward you the number if you need them for something else, and I believe you already are in touch with them. You can collaborate on anything that you guys want with the IMS worldwide, whether it be here in Toronto, here, or somewhere else. Like I said to you, if you are up for it, you and I, we can start approaching masjids together to spread the propaganda and spread the narrative. With the problem that I have noticed, so I started this being active in this realm about a year ago. And I, for some reason, thought due to the virality of this new space of Islamic revival that you've seen on YouTube, people might be more familiar with it, but it turns out they're not. So when if you remember the event that I met you at, turns out whatever we were talking about that day, majority of the people were hearing about it for the first time. And we've had private discussions as well, where we do talk about the political system of Islam, and that Islam needs to overcome every other system and every other deen and be at the top. People really didn't get it for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they're too deep rooted into the ideology that they've been given by their parents, grandparents, or previous scholars. They don't seem to get it. So what I told the people that I'm working with, the team that I'm working with, is that instead of trying to go to step two, where I thought we should start from, we're going to have to go back to step one, which is basically promoting the narrative. and basically doing a full propaganda campaign in order to get the word out as fast as we can. That's the same way they did it in Pakistan. That's the same way they do it everywhere else. Once if we Ummah Times works together with IMS, or any other organization works together with any other organization, it's better because then we just have more venues to go to, right? We can get more ears to listen to. We can get more eyes on newsletters and websites as well. So I believe all of us can work together on spreading the propaganda, spreading the narrative as fast as we can. So then we can slowly and steadily bring them onto platforms such as the Ummah Times or IMS, or even if they don't want to come to the platform, increase their IQs and increase the four capitals we talk about, so that we can get on with this as soon as possible. And then we can have these key influential people, whether it be scholars who actually do support the revival of Islam, we can get them to come over here, because we have to realize, for these scholars and key speakers who are in Pakistan and other countries to come to Canada and talk about this, they still require some people to be in attendance, right? They're not going to fly from halfway over the world for 10 or 15 people, because it doesn't really help that. They might go somewhere else, such as the UK, as the brother mentioned, where the Muslims over there are more politically active. So you can, whoever wants to check out IMS can go onto the website. It's islamicmessagingsystem.com. Whoever else wants to check out Ummah Times, I'm pretty sure you might have a link in the description for your website as well. Get in contact with anyone, whether it be Brother Zishan, Brother Ali, or myself. And then if there's somewhere we can go together and talk about this, I would actually love to. And I had a question for you. I was thinking about this yesterday. Do you guys just mainly do dawa, street dawa, or do you actually go to venues as well to talk about basically the revivalist mission?
Yeah, sure. So the Ummah Times, we're an online platform.
Okay.
Uh, Basically, we have a website, theummahtimes.com, where we put out papers, articles, and we have this active podcast show as well. That's the Ummah Times. Uh, on a personal note, I'm also with another Dawa outreach organization. That's me. I do that on the
Okay.
side. So I'm with Dawa Canada. So I do that. Um, so what? Just come back to IMS. What I like about what you just presented, and is that you guys work very fluidly. You're not rigid in your way, and you're willing to hear other views and even consider them. And and if the evidence weighs in that favor, it looks like you're open to then follow whatever the evidence um, is more stronger. So that's what I like about your team and group, that you're very work very openly and very fluidly. And again, yeah, I think you should have more events here. I believe in terms of getting an audience, I don't think it will be much of a problem, because there's an organization here, I3, that just did a collaboration with Brother Sahil Adeem. We know the brothers at I3 as well. So in terms of even Sahil coming over here, I don't think there will be a problem in him getting an audience these days as
Yeah,
well.
he's planning on coming.
So
He's trying to book dates right now. Currently, he has to go to Europe first, and
yeah,
then try to come to Canada. But I think that's going to be till summer, I believe.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Brother, you got anything else you may want to bring up with Brother Abu Bakr right now, or?
Yeah, so
No,
I just
no.
wanted to mention that you were saying the fluidity of the IMS, basically. It's not something of a strategy. I think it's a general sentiment in everybody that's a part of IMS, because honestly speaking, and I'm sure that's true for you as well. We're not doing this for ourselves, right? It doesn't. Islam is not my personal inheritance. We're doing this for the betterment of the deen itself and for the ummah, our kids, and everybody surrounding me in general. So if there's something that I'm lacking in, I have no problem in delegating it to you or learning from you, whether it be public speaking, specific facts, specific research, or anything as well. We're completely open to anything, because um, we want to get this done as soon as possible as well, just like everybody else. It's not about hoarding fame and glory and all that kind of stuff. We're very mission driven in what we're trying to do. Anybody who's not, or who's idle, who's lazy, who's lethargic, anything else, there's a system in place in IMS where they automatically just are pulled out of the group and left to the side. If you're idle in IMS, there's no place really for you, because then you're just wasting space, right? You're wasting time, and you're going to spread it to other people as well. So what we basically do in IMS is, there's a point system that's going to be introduced in the app. whoever is the most active, whoever does research, whoever does teaching, whoever does public speaking, whoever does anything, you're basically going to get a rating on it. You're going to be rated by your peers, you're going to be rated by your audience, you're going to be rated by your people. That shows the competence that you have, and you slowly climb through the ladder to get more basically credibility to add it to your name, so that you can rise through the ranks and eventually come into specific roles that are needed by an organization such as this. So we're very open to anybody that wants to join us and anybody that wants to be a part of the mission and help out in any way.
Well, Jazakallah khair for sharing all that, and yeah, we'll be happy to be present at any events you have in the local area and get involved and engage with your team. Well, Jazakallah khair, everyone for listening, and Assalamu alaikum.